As you can see, I've been casted up, and the reason being that I ruptured my Achilles. I ruptured my Achilles tendon. This is the third week. It takes a little bit of time to come to acceptance and realization that this is how you're gonna live your life for the next few months. This time around, I'm not going to do my usual introduction prologue, which is hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. The normal usual introduction you see on my YouTube videos. I will just go straight up and talk about my injury. I sustained this injury during our training session with my team, Kembagan FC. A lot of times we tend to ignore there are some certain things we take for granted. I don't want to get emotional in any way, because my days of being emotional are behind me. I have come to realize that I have to accept my condition temporarily at this time. This is my first time of having something so big on my leg, and I've been carrying this with me for the past 3 weeks. This is exactly my third week of my Achilles tendon being ruptured. For those who doesn't have an idea, or those who are in sports or athletes, this is for the benefit of some athletes. You know, we tend to, especially footballers, we tend to think, most of us do think that knee tendon or knee injury or maybe ankle injury are the worst injuries or maybe shoulder are the worst injury when it comes to football or when it comes to sports or athletes, because that's your main movement tool. You know, that's where you get your balance, is on your knee. But we tend to forget that there are some other parts of our body that we should be taking very serious, you know, in terms of care and all that. First of all, a little bit of insight of what Achilles tendon is all about. In this video, I'm going to give you some of my experience, because they say experience is the best teacher, right? So some of my experience since I've sustained this injury and how I've been able to overcome or carry through these first 3 weeks, and how I'm going to continue to carry on for the next few months. And I'll be giving you update. I will continue to give you update on my recovery process in terms of when I start my physical therapy. This time around, if you look at this cast, I mean, for those of you who are not familiar with what is called cast, cast is something that will be used to immobilize your leg, to keep it in a static form, in a very to avoid you having rotational movement with your leg. Your leg should be kept at a certain position or angle. This should be 95 degrees, so that it cannot be, you know, you can't be moving your leg as the name implies, immobilize, to immobilize your leg. So first of all, let's talk about Achilles tendon. Achilles is, for those of you who are not familiar, is the muscle that passes through the heel, from the heel to the calf, that connects to the calf muscle. From the heel to the calf muscle, that's your the Achilles connects from your heel to your calf, and it runs through to this point. And from my recent observations, from my recent research, I happen to learn that it's the biggest muscle that enhances movement in our body. I mean, I wouldn't say that I do neglect it, or that we neglect it, because before we start any routine, any form of training or matches, I do make sure that I warm up properly. Sometimes some warm-ups may not be the same, you may not get your warm-up to the best level that you always have. Having known what is Achilles, how can you rupture it? I mean, to put a sudden stress on the tendon can lead to rupture. And when you talk about rupturing, you have the partial rupture and the full rupture. Mine was a full rupture. Unfortunately, mine was a full rupture. And it happens to be that, from my research as well, most of the people that have passed through, that have encountered rupture, I mean, we are not performing at it's not necessary that you be at your highest intensity level of workout or game before this happens. I mean, it can happen all of a sudden, right? It happens when you're not even expecting it. In March, I went to watch a game. I saw a game at a stadium, and this happened, exactly the same thing happened to a player right before my eyes. And nobody marked him, nobody touched him. They just passed ball to him. He went to receive the ball that was passed to him. That is how he ruptured his Achilles. And he also passed through some surgery and is still in a recovery process. So that a lot, I mean, this period has been the most difficult period of my life, I would say that. Because when you struggle to get a plate from the kitchen, when you struggle to carry a plate of food in your hand without having a clutch or having the clutches beside you as your head, it becomes difficult. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the causes, the cause, maybe the possible preventions. I'm not trying to use this video as an experiment or a kind of case study for you guys, but one thing with me is, whenever anything happens to me, whenever any injury occurs, whenever I sustain any form of injury, for example, when I had my knee injury in 2016, it lasted for just 1 month, 1 or 2 months. I fixed it through the natural procedure. But this one, it happens to be that, and after much consideration, calls, and a lot of deliberations with my friends, my fellow coaches, I had to come to a conclusion. And some of the doctors and the surgeon himself that handled my operation, I had to go with the surgery procedure. A lot of people take the route of non-surgical route, but I feel like as I'm still active, just like the doctor advised, if you're still active and you want to still go back to your activities or games, I think the best option or the best thing for you to do is to go for without wasting time, because the more you waste time, the more the the tissues start becoming weak, or maybe even if they are connecting, they will not connect in a very nicest way or the nice way they're supposed to connect. So 1 week or maximum 2 weeks should be fine. You know, if you wait for 5 months trying to see if you go through the non-surgical operation and maybe what the result you want to get is not, you're not getting it, then you want to now change to the surgical. I mean, that will prolong your, we call it heal long. It will make your injury to heal long. So my advice from my experience and from the few research that I've done is, if you have an Achilles tendon rupture, whether it's partial or full, and you know you're still active, you just have to opt for the surgery. But if your faith, because sometimes your faith can see you through, if your faith say that you shouldn't go for the surgical route, then you just go with your heart. For me, I think I'm recovering well. I will walk you through some of the experience I've encountered in this during the pre and the post operation of my surgery. And I've talked about the difficulties, being not able to do the normal things or the usual things that you do before, you know, walking with your leg to do your stuff in the house or outside, walking to the car to drive. You have to put a support inside the car for you to be able to rest your leg and keep it in a very stable position. I have talked less about the hopping, you know, the hopping movements. Sometimes I get tired of the clutches and I will choose to hop sometimes, you know. Maybe what I want to do or the thing that I want to do at that time may require me to do it immediately, and I wouldn't, maybe moving with clutch may take me a little bit of time, then I will just hop to go and get it done. Let me talk about some of the reasons why this can happen. Okay, it's widely being known. We used to think that the knee injury or the ankle injury or the groin injury were some of the worst injuries that a footballer or somebody who is into football or soccer, as the case may be in US, will sustain or should sustain. I have realized in the hard way that Achilles tendon rupture is the worst injury. For me, it's the worst injury anybody can have, because if you, with your knee, you can still move around. If you have knee injury, you can still move around. You may not have the same strength and the same power that you used to have on your knee, but this one you can't even walk at all, because if you walk, you're not going to have any support. That is actually the biggest muscle part we have in our system, because it connects from the heel to your calf. So that's your main source of support in your leg, and you don't have to try to do anything that will compromise it, because it can lead to a more catastrophic, even to the extent of your leg getting completely damaged. So it's a very sensitive, and it is a very sensitive part of our body, of our legs, which should be taken with adequate precaution. I advise anybody, my advice is, if you have this, make sure you have the best surgeon who gives you the good professional advice. Don't just walk with or run with all the things that you have in the community on YouTube or internet. You know, a lot of people will say different things, but you have to understand that our bodies works in we have different bodies and it works in different ways. What will work for you may not be able to work for me. Okay, so sometimes we have to listen to our body. We have to listen to our body and how our body reacts to systems. So, but we should make sure that we follow the procedure or the due process that which the medical practitioner or your surgeon or your medical advisor have given you, because he has seen so many cases of that. And you being, I mean, maybe that should be your first time of having such experience. So I believe or think that you should take the advice of your doctor, okay, and take it very seriously, and also listen to your body. Don't just start trying to, don't try to do too much a little bit earlier, you know. Take your time, one step at a time. I mean, sometimes a lot of people used to say that I'm not a human, you know, that I'm not a human, that very soon you will start walking, you will start moving again. I just give you 1 month. I mean, some people say 1 month I know you, 1 month you start walking again, 1 month you start doing your activities again. These people doesn't really know the degree of what happened to me. They don't know the extent of what happened to me. And sometimes people talk to me on the phone and I just sound normal. I try to stay optimistic and positive at all times, irrespective of whatever that happens to me. And only if these people sees me in person, they will be like, really, is this the extent of the thing? You know, when they see me on clutches. The preventions or the major causes that I've learned can be overuse of the tendon, overuse of the Achilles, you know, which is why proper resting or proper recovery is essential. Proper recovery. After every strenuous exercise, proper recovery is very important. If the Achilles tendon have been used or have been used extensively for a very long period of time, I mean, it can make it to become a little bit weaker. And I think from my research as well, some of our food intake, the rupturing process or the things that can cause it, for the benefit of those who have no idea of what it's all about, you can rupture it by, if you overstress of the tendon over a period of time. Maybe if you're playing and step your foot or step your toes on an even ground, a ground that is not on the same level, I mean, your slight movement or change in movement can also cause your shoes or your boots, whatever you're playing with, to put you in an uncomfortable position that can cause you to put a pressure or a stress. When this happened, I felt like a heavy block was used to hit my leg, and I just, when I fell down, and some of the players thought that it was just a minor thing, because but for the fact that I fell down, I was in pain and I was shouting, I mean, sent some certain signal to some of the players that this is not a usual kind of injury. You know, for me to have been taken by with aid, you know, by the help of 2 players outside the pitch, I think as well, at the same time, sent some signal to some of them that this was not just like an ordinary injury. At first, I thought it was something that, okay, maybe it's a kind of muscle tear or a kind of, you know, just like we normally have our injuries, you know, the muscle tear or groin tear or whatever, that you can rest for few weeks and you come back to your game again. But one thing that made me to realize that something different or something serious has happened was the fact that when I touched here and felt this place, it wasn't feeling the same. You know, this place became soft, right here became soft, and here was still intact. Okay, so guys, now I'm on clutches. I've never I've never touched clutch. I've never been able to touch a clutch in my life. I mean, this is my first time of using a clutch. So it has become my head to walk around. Sometimes we never know what we have until we lose